Okay. 17. Srinvatam Swakatha Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtana. Hridyantasthohyabhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Desire for material enjoyment include lust, greed, and all these propensities. Messages of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, are non-different from him. Whenever, therefore, offenseless hearing and glorification of God are undertaken, it is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as the Lord personally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka declares clearly that the holy name of the Lord has all the potencies of the Lord and that he has endowed his innumerable names with the same potency. There is no rigid fixture of time, and anyone can chant the holy name with attention and reverence at his convenience. The Lord is so kind to us that he can be present before us personally in the form of transcendental sound. But unfortunately, we have no taste for hearing and glorifying the Lord's name and activities. We have already discussed developing a taste for hearing and chanting the holy sound. It is done through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. The Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord and has thus become eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. Therefore, I say that there are 4 different factors that need to be considered in the matter of devotional service to Lord Krishna. One is Shraddha, conviction. Another is Prajna, understanding, knowledge, understanding, conception, conviction, conception, spritha, ambition, and then kriya, action. First of all, this is part of any pursuit. This is part of any pursuit. Any human pursuit will have these 4 components. You need to have the right conviction. You need to have the right conception. You need to have a desire to attain that goal. And you need to engage in certain activities by which you can attain that goal. So the same thing is there in the matter of going back to Godhead. We need to have the right conviction. We need to have the right type of faith, interest, respect. We need to have the right understanding. We need to have the right type of hankering. And we need to engage in the right type of activity. Otherwise, it is not possible to make tangible progress. There's a question. I thought there was a question here. What is offenseless hearing? Offenseless hearing is simply engaging in the matter of hearing while giving sufficient respect to the source of what we are hearing. For instance, the academic scholars who study the Vedic scriptures in universities and so on, they don't believe that these scriptures need to be obeyed. So that is an offense. They're committing an offense while engaged in the study of the scriptures. So that kind of offensive hearing or offensive chanting will not help. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. One cannot enter into the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. One minute. The material sins are products of our desires to lord it over material nature. It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotee making progress on the path back to Godhead. Many stalwarts in the devotional line fell victim to these allurements and thus retreated from the path of liberation. But when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole process becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. So unless we are we receive direct help from the Supreme Lord himself, it is not possible to make tangible progress in Krishna consciousness. To become restless in the contact of woman and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from a remote time, practically immemorial, and it takes time to recover from this foreign nature. So this nature of a conditioned soul, Prabhupada describes as a foreign nature. But if one is engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes his real position. His real position. He realizes that he is meant to serve the Lord. He realizes the nature of the Supreme Lord and so on. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind. 18. अष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishthi. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. How does the Lord act from within the devotee? Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. This is the point. He guides us and he makes us understand that he is guiding us also, because his teachings, his guidance would be in line with the standard teachings of the scriptures as presented by the parampara authorities who follow the scriptures, and one's own spiritual masters who follow the parampara authorities who follow the scriptures. So from that, it will be clear that it is Krishna who is guiding us. Here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is the association of the Bhagavatas. The association of the Bhagavata necessarily means engaging in bhajana kriya under the guidance of and in the association of more advanced devotees. This is what is called sadhu sangha. You will notice sadhu sangha comes between shraddha and bhajana kriya. Sadhu shraddha tata sadhu sangotha bhajana kriya. So if we try to engage in sadhu sangha without that shraddha or without that bhajana kriya, then anartha nivritti will not happen. Because full shraddha plus, or let me say pure shraddha plus pure sadhu sangha plus pure bhajana kriya will equal complete anartha and everything. So therefore, the remedy is the association of the Bhagavatas, plural. There are two types of Bhagavatas, namely the book Bhagavata and the devotee Bhagavata. Both the Bhagavatas are competent remedies. Both of them, or either of them, can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles. A devotee Bhagavata is as good as as the book Bhagavata, because the devotee Bhagavata leads his life in terms of the book Bhagavata. And the book Bhagavata is full of information about the personality of God, and his pure devotees were also Bhagavatas. Bhagavata book and person are identical. The devotee Bhagavata is a direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavata, one can receive the benefit of the book Bhagavata. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavata or the book Bhagavata, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are facts explained by Srila Narada Deva, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. The maidservant was engaged in the menial service of the sages, and thus he also came into contact with them. And simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of the maidservant got the chance to become the great devotee and personality, Srila Narada Deva. So therefore it was said, the desire to hear appears from service to service. These are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavatas. And to understand these effects practically, it should be noted that by such sincere association of the Bhagavatas, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily, with the result that he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. The more progress is made in devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavatas, the more one becomes fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The messages of the book Bhagavata, therefore, are to be received from the devotee Bhagavata, and the combination of these two Bhagavatas will help the neophyte devotee to make progress on and on. Yes, Prabhu. Achyutna Prabhu.
In 17th verse, women and wealth were Prabhupada said great obstacles for
Okay.
So in 18th verse, when it is said that association of others is
Your voice is breaking. I'm not able to hear. I think you should type out the question. Okay, I'll continue. You just type out the question. 19. Tata rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayascha ye cheta ete ranavidham stitam satya prasidhati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. Okay, forgot about Sridhar Swami's commentary on 18. Here the word, in text 18, the word praya appears. Almost. Prayeshu. Ashtaprayeshu. Almost to nil. And the reason why that is stated is because only after one attains spiritual realization, that time only all inauspiciousness is destroyed. Therefore, it is said almost, because this is an intermediate stage. Bhagavatanam Bhagavata Shastrasya va sevaya. By serving Srimad Bhagavatam, the scripture, or by serving the Bhagavata personalities. It's important to keep in mind. It is service. It's not simply association. It is association with service. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Three items will always come together. Naishtiki, Nischala, Vikshepa, Bhava. One comes to the point of unshaken engagement in bhajana kriya because there will be no obstacles. He becomes completely happy means he becomes tranquil, he becomes peaceful. A living being in his normal constitutional position is fully satisfied in spiritual bliss. This state of existence is called Brahmabhuta or Atmananda or the state of self-satisfaction. This self-satisfaction is not like the satisfaction of the inactive fool. The inactive fool is in the state of foolish ignorance, whereas the self-satisfied Atmanandi is transcendental to the material state of existence. This stage of perfection is attained as soon as one is fixed in irrevocable devotional service. Devotional service is not inactivity, but the unalloyed activity of the soul. The soul's activity becomes adulterated in contact with matter, and thus the diseased activities are expressed in the form of lust, desire, hankering, inactivity, foolishness, and sleep. The effect of devotion service becomes manifest by complete elimination of these effects of passion and ignorance. The devotee is fixed at once in the mode of goodness, and he makes further progress to rise to the position of Vasudeva, or the state of unmixed sattva or Shuddha sattva. Only in this Shuddha sattva state can one always see Krishna face to face. By dint of pure affection for the Lord, the devotee is always in the mode of unalloyed goodness. So first he comes to material goodness, then he comes to spiritual goodness. That means Shuddha sattva. Therefore, he harms no one. But the non-devotee, however educated he may be, is always harmful. A devotee is neither foolish nor passionate. The harmful, foolish, and passionate cannot be devotees of the Lord, however they may advertise themselves as devotees by outward dress. A devotee is always qualified with all the good qualities of God. Quantitatively, such qualifications may be different, but qualitatively, both the Lord and his devotee are one and the same. Krishna possesses 50 qualities which can be found in the form of droplets or drops when one becomes completely liberated. But Krishna has them to an unlimited extent. Even when we attain the highest state of liberation from material existence, we will only possess them in the form of drops, whereas he possesses each of them in the form of oceans to that extent. So quantitatively, such qualifications may be different, but qualitatively, both the Lord and his devotee are one and the same. 20. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yoga gataha bhagavad tattva vijnana mukta sangyasya jayate. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotion service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of God in the stage of liberation from all material association. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.3, it is said that out of many thousands of ordinary men, one fortunate man endeavors for perfection in life. Mostly men are conducted by the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus they are engaged always in lust, desire, hankerings, ignorance, and sleep. Out of many such man-like animals, there is actually a man who knows the responsibility of human life and thus tries to make life perfect by following the prescribed duties. And out of many thousands of such persons who have thus attained success in human life, one may know scientifically about the personality of God, Sri Krishna. In the same Bhagavad Gita 18.55, it is also said that scientific knowledge of Sri Krishna is understood only by the process of devotion service, bhakti yoga. The very same thing is confirmed here in the above words. No ordinary man, or even one who has attained success in human life, can know scientifically or perfectly the personality of God. Perfection of human life is attained when one can understand that he is not the product of matter, but is in fact spirit. As soon as one understands that he has nothing to do with matter, he at once ceases his material hankerings and becomes enlivened as a spiritual being. This attainment of success is possible when one is above the modes of passion and ignorance, or in other words, when one is actually a Brahmana by qualification. A Brahmana is a symbol of Sattva Guna, or the mode of goodness, and others who are not in the mode of goodness are either Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, or less than the Shudras. The Brahmanical stage is the highest stage of human life because of its good qualities. So one cannot be a devotee unless one at least qualifies as a Brahmana. The devotee is already a Brahmana by action, but that is not the end of it. As referred to above, such a Brahmana has to become a Vaishnava. In fact, to be actually in the transcendental stage. A pure Vaishnava is a liberated soul and is transcendental even to the position of a Brahmana. So the idea is that in the previous stage, one comes to goodness. He becomes a Brahmana. And in one conversation, the Varnashram conversation in February 1977, Prabhupada says that when one comes to goodness indicates that one becomes a perfect Brahmana. Becomes a perfect Brahmana means that he does not have the natures of Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or Panchama. Does not have that. And then he engages in further Krishna consciousness, and then all the spiritual realization, everything comes in. As referred to above, such a Brahmana has to become a Vaishnava, in fact, to be actually in the transcendental stage. Yes.
So I have always a confusion about this. ISKCON is meant for making a Brahmanas, right? Prabhupada says that we are training Brahmanical culture. So what about these others like Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra? And what about this Vaishnava philosophy? I have always confusion about this.
First of all, one has to become dharmic. Then one becomes sattvic. Then one becomes pure. Then one becomes perfect. So when we are Krishna conscious, but we are only dharmic, then at that stage, one may not be counted as a Brahman because he may not have the guna karma of a Brahmana yet. And then when he progresses further, then he develops the nature of a Brahmana, as we see here, right in this sequence here. So now he has developed the guna karma of a Brahmana. Then when he progresses further, he comes to the point where he exhibits the nature, he exhibits his attitude and activities exhibit the features of Uttama Bhakti. Anya Vilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam, Anukulyena Krishnanu, Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. All of this is found in him. But that will be naturally on the platform of sadhana bhakti, which will continue to mature into bhava bhakti, which will continue to mature into prema bhakti. Of course, assuming that we don't commit sinful activities, offenses, and so on. We don't mess it up. Just continue to progress. So at different stages, one will have different labels. So if we have the nature of a panchama, then naturally we are not on the dharmic platform. By dharmic, I mean uninterruptedly dharmic in every manner, in the body and in the mind and in speech. Dharma is a big circle. Inside the big circle, there's a smaller circle called Sattvikata, the state of Sattva. That is the nature of a Brahmana. Inside that is a smaller circle, which is your devotional service to Lord Krishna. And inside that is another smaller circle, which is Krishna Prema Bhakti. So we are right in the outside. We have become inside, 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 inside. So at different stages, there are different milestones. So everybody will have to progress. That progress may take uh, it may take days, weeks, months, years, decades, lifetimes, dozens of lifetimes, hundreds of lifetimes, depending on to what extent I have a desire for mukti or bhakti. First of all, I can only progress when the desire to progress, the desire for mukti or bhakti, whether they are compatible with prema bhakti or not. If I have desires for mukti and bhakti which are not even compatible with attainment of prema bhakti or prema seva, then we are talking about thousands of lifetimes. So on the pathway, the slow pathway for the Swanishthas, they are allowed to have desires. They're allowed to have desires uh, for mukti, which does not contradict mukti, which does not contradict Bhagavad Prema. But for the Parinishtitas, second track, you are not even allowed to have such desires. You just have to accept whatever the Lord gives, no matter how miserable it is. You have to accept it. It's medicine. So these ones have a desire for liberation that does not contradict uh, love of God. But for the Nirapekshas, they, they reject uh, all the desires for material enjoyment. Pious, pious, pious enjoyment, favorable for liberation, which itself might be favorable for attaining love of God. And they reject the desire for liberation, even if it is favorable for love of God. So corresponding to how much we pay, to that extent, it is faster or slower. So you will find in the Krishna consciousness movement, inside ISKCON or outside ISKCON, you will find practitioners of devotional service to Krishna. You will find them in different statuses. So you will find those with the nature of a Sudra or Vaishya or Kshatriya or Brahmana. But the preliminary goal is to make, first of all, the pre-preliminary goal is to make people dharmic in every possible manner. Dharmic means uninterruptedly dharmic. This is the first milestone. Second milestone would be to get ourselves to the mode of goodness, which means our entire nature will change. Entire nature will change. We see in Bhagavad Gita so many features of Sattva Guna. So our gross body and subtle body we will develop tastes for the mode of goodness. So it is Krishna consciousness. But from Tamasic Bhakti Yoga, we come to Rajasic Bhakti Yoga to Sattvic Bhakti Yoga before we come to Prakrita Bhakti Yoga. So Prakrita Bhakti Yoga is the green mango. So it is up to each and every one of us. It is up to each and every one of us to decide how much time it should take. My voice seems to be bad. Let me see if I can connect it to my great geo. 1 minute. Dharmic means all the qualities that are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, that 16th chapter. Initially, there's a list of 26 items. 16.123, divine nature. It is dharma. But within that, you have specific duties for specific varnas and specific ashramas. Just give me a minute. I'm going to switch the network to my Geo connection will. Okay.
Prabhu, one more thing.
There's another way I explain it. I explain it like so. I'll explain it this way. Another person who only has the nature of a Brahmana. He only has the nature of a Brahman. Perfect Brahman. Then somebody else may have the nature of a Kshatriya. Tinge of Kshatriya nature, while predominantly having a Brahmanical nature. Similarly, you have a Brahmana with the tinge of a Shudra nature. Or there's also the possibility that one primarily has the nature of a Kshatriya, but he slightly has the nature of a Brahman. Similarly, these possibilities are also there. One primarily has the nature of a, one primarily has the nature of a Vaishya, or one primarily has the nature of a Shudra. Then there may be a person who only has the nature of a Kshatriya or Vaishya or a Shudra. It's only for the purpose of illustration. So now, let us say somebody, say someone is a Vaishya by nature and by activity. When we introduce him to Krishna consciousness, from here, he will come to this point. He will develop some Brahmanical nature. He will develop some Brahmanical nature. Then when he progresses further in Krishna consciousness, his Brahmanical nature will increase. And then when his Brahmanical nature increases, now this person will have to be recognized as a Brahmana, because labels are given according to what is predominant. Pradhanyatah vyapadesha bhavanti. But he has a Vaishya sub-tendency also. And then as he progresses further, comes to the point where he only has a Brahmanical nature, does not have Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra nature. This person is the perfect Brahman. This perfect Brahmana, he is the Kanishta Adhikari. He is the Kanishta Bhagavata. Then as he progresses further, he'll become Madhyama Bhagavata. Then he progresses further, he becomes Uttama Bhagavata. So it means every member of ISKCON is supposed to become a Brahmana. Yes. If we are supposed to create Daiva Varnashrama, it means not everyone will be a Brahmana. Correct. On the way, before everyone becomes a Brahmana, one has to become something. It will be what his conditioning has dictated. So on the transit pathway, he may he may have other guna karmas. But ultimately, one has to come to this point. Now, amongst the parinishtitas, those will create a big confusion. You're born, let's say you're born with the guna karma of a Vaishya. Take to Krishna consciousness. And let us say you attain the primary nature of a Brahmana. Or let us say before you attain the primary nature of Brahmana, okay, say in your family, your father, mother, everybody has taken to Krishna consciousness. They are all here. The boy is also here. What kind of girl will you get married to? So there is a rule of Savarna Vivaha. You have to get people married according to the same Varna, same Guna Karma. So now that he's here, his primary Varna is Vaishya. You have to find a girl who's also of this nature. But before this, let us say he becomes here. Now he alone is a Brahmana in a family of primary Vaishyas. How do you find a girl who also is here and whose family members are here? It becomes a big, gigantic mess. So amongst the Parinishtitas, they go with the standard role. Like, for instance, the Pandavas. Pandavas are, because they are associates of the Lord Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, undoubtedly they are Brahmanas, right? Gunakarma. But for various reasons, they are playing the role of Kshatriyas. Krishna, through his Leela Shakti, has also empowered them to function like Kshatriyas. So they accept the prescriptions, prohibitions, and restricted allowances of Kshatriyas. Even Draupadi Devi also accepts that. In fact, when there was an attempt to disrobe her, Krishna supplied her unlimited clothing to protect her honor. At that time, Dhritarashtra became terrified and offered her a benediction, saying that you can ask whatever you want, I'll give you. So then she says, I don't want my husbands to be in this situation. So like that, she asked something, then she asked something, and then she asked something else. And each one, Dhritarashtra says, fine, take whatever you want. So she asked for the kingdom back, she asked for everything back, whatever they lost. And Dhritarashtra gives everything. And then after the third benediction, Dhritarashtra says, okay, ask whatever else you want, I'll give you that. And Draupadi says, no, I'm a Kshatriya woman. I can only ask for 3. I cannot ask for more than 3. So they follow all these things. This is what a Kshatriya can accept. Kshatriya cannot do certain things. Even though they are pure devotees, that's what they'll follow. So Parinishtitas are like this. If they function as Shudras, if they have taken that role, then that is the role they'll play for whole life. Unofficially, they may be in the highest platform. And those who are intelligent will recognize that, like Vidura, for instance. He was born as a Shudra. So he would not speak on spiritual topics. In Mahabharata, it comes, there's a place. When Dhritarashtra was in great anxiety and Vidura told him it's all because you are not spiritual. This is much before the war. So at that time, Dhritarashtra tells him that, no, you should advise me. Because ultimately it is spiritual understanding that can save a person from all anxieties of material life itself. But then he says, no, but I am not a Brahmana, I'm a Shudra. So I'm not authorized to speak on this. And then in his meditation, he called for Sanat Kumar. Sanat Kumar instantly appeared. And Sanat Kumar spoke. This is the Sanat Sujati portion of Mahabharata. So he had the potency to summon Sanat Kumar, which signifies that he is more than an ordinary Brahmana. But at the same time, he has taken on the role that, see, I am a Shudra. I will not accept higher privileges. The Parinishtatas function like they will not break the arrangement for the role that they've accepted. But intelligent souls understand. For instance, the Pandavas, they knew that Vidura, even though he's playing the role uh, uh, of a Shudra, is in fact a pure devotee of the Lord. The Pandavas knew that. Similarly, uh, there were souls who knew that. There were souls who knew that. So that is how they function. Paramishritas function like this. But unofficially, everybody has to come to the point of having the exclusive guna karma of a Brahmana. That itself is only a Kanishta Vaishnava. Everybody has to come to that point. Externally, he may play other roles. When he is a Parinishita, he will have to play a role that was most convenient for him. That was most convenient for him. Okay, we'll go on. So one cannot be a devotee unless one at least qualifies as a Brahmana. The devotee is already a Brahmana by action, but that is not the end of it. As referred to above, such a Brahmana has to become a Vaishnava. In fact, to be actually in the transcendental stage. A pure Vaishnava is a liberated soul and is transcendental even to the position of a Brahmana. In the material stage, even a Brahmana is also a conditioned soul. Because although in the Brahmanical state, the conception of Brahman or transcendence is realized, scientific knowledge of the Supreme Lord is lacking. One has to surpass the Brahmanical stage and reach the Vasudeva stage to understand the personality of Godhead Krishna. The science of the personality of Godhead is the subject matter for study by the postgraduate students in the spiritual line. Foolish men or men with a poor fund of knowledge do not understand the Supreme Lord, and they interpret Krishna according to their respective whims. The fact is, however, that one cannot understand the science of the personality of Godhead unless one is freed from the contamination of the material modes, even up to the stage of a Brahmana. When a qualified Brahmana factually becomes a Vaishnava in the enlightened state of liberation, he can know what is actually the personality of Godhead. 21. Vidyate hridaya granthis, chidyante sarva samshaya, kiyante chasya karmani, drishta eva atman ishvare. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees one's master, oneself and one's master. When one sees oneself and one's master. This is the result of having attained realization. Rupa Goswami calls this Bhava Bhakti, Bhakti in the form of experience. Hridayameva Grantihi. The heart itself is the knot in the heart. It refers to Ahankara, which ties together matter and spirit. Atayeva sarve samshayas asambhavanadi rupaha. Therefore, all misgivings, here misgivings refer to doubts. Samshaya means doubt. What kind of doubt? Doubts about the impossibility of attaining full spiritual perfection. So these kinds of doubts, there may be other types of doubts also. All of these are destroyed. Karmani anarabdha phalani. The chain of fruitive actions and reactions. These refer to those karmic reactions other than prarabdha karma. Atmani swarupa bhute ishvare drishte sakshakrite sati. Devakarina vijnana anantaram eveti darshayati. The word eva here, drishteva atmani ishvare. Here, atmani ishvare indicates that when one sees the Supreme Lord who is qualitatively one with oneself, sees means Sakshatkrita, directly experiences. Only at that point, uh, this realization comes. After, only after realization, the knot is pierced and the misgivings are cut, and all of one's karmic reactions other than prarabdha karma are destroyed. Attaining scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing one's own self simultaneously. As far as identity of the living being as spirit self is concerned, there are a number of speculations and misgivings. The materialist does not believe in the existence of the spirit self, and Greek philosophers believe in the impersonal feature of the whole spirit without individuality of the living beings. But the transcendentalists affirm that the soul and the supersoul are two different identities, qualitatively one but quantitatively different. There are many other theories, but all these different speculations are at once cleared off as soon as Sri Krishna is realized in truth by the process of Bhakti-yoga. Sri Krishna is like the sun, and the materialistic speculations about the absolute truth are like the darkest midnight. As soon as the Krishna sun is arisen within one's heart, the darkness of materialistic speculations about the absolute truth and the living beings is at once cleared off. In the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand, and the relative truths that were hidden within the dense darkness of ignorance become clearly manifested by the mercy of Krishna, who is residing in everyone's heart as a super soul. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.11, the Lord says that in order to show special favor to his pure devotees, he personally eradicates the dense darkness of all misgivings by switching on the light of pure knowledge within the heart of a devotee. Therefore, because of the personality of God, it's taking charge of illuminating the heart of his devotee. Certainly, a devotee engaged in his service in transcendental love cannot remain in darkness. He comes to know everything of the absolute and the relative truths. The devotee cannot remain in darkness because a devotee is enlightened by the personality of God. His knowledge is certainly perfect. It is not this is not the case for those who speculate on the absolute truth by dint of their own limited power of approach. Perfect knowledge is called parampara or deductive knowledge. There should not be a comma here. Coming down from the authority to the submissive oral receiver who is bona fide by service and surrender. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme and know him also at the same time. He reserves the right of not being exposed to such a challenging spirit of an insignificant spark of the whole, a spark subjected to the control of the illusory energies. The devotees are submissive, and therefore the transcendental knowledge descends to the personality of Godhead, to Brahma, and from Brahma to his sons and disciples in succession. This process is helped by the super soul within such devotees. That is the perfect way of learning transcendental knowledge. This enlightenment perfectly enables the devotee to distinguish spirit from matter because a knot of spirit and matter is untied by the Lord. This knot is called ahankar, and it falsely obliges a living being to become identified with matter. As soon as this knot is loosened, therefore, all the clouds of doubt are at once cleared off. One sees his master and fully engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of action. In material existence, a living being creates his own chain of fruitive work and enjoys the good and bad effects of those actions life after life. But as soon as he engages himself in the loving service of the Lord, he at once becomes free from the chain of karma. His actions no longer create any reaction. Wait, 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 before you shoot me. Wait. What is that verse number? 1.2.21. What? According to Sri Baladev Devotion, this is an incidental result. Okay, the different types of uh, doubts are spelled out by Jiva Goswami and clarified by Baladev Devotion. As one hears, then the idea that it is impossible to understand, to know, to understand, to realize, that doubt goes away. And by deliberation, then the misconceptions pertaining to the object of knowledge, Krishna, they go away. And when one directly sees the Supreme Lord, then the doubt that whether one is personally capable of realizing him or not, that also goes away. They are extinguished. Tad dikshayaiva tad abhasa kaschit anuvartate iti jnana. One should understand that by the Lord's will, a semblance of one's karmic reaction to a small portion continues. Kripa, Satseva, Shraddha, Guruashraya, Bhakti Spriha, Bhakti, Chanivritti, Nishtha, Asakti, Prema. And then one directly meets the Lord. Okay, question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So you said that this sloka represents Bhava Bhakti. So from Sridhar Swami's commentary, so it represents Bhava Bhakti or Prema Bhakti, because last sloka was about Prema Bhakti.
The result of realization is this. I think it goes through different phases. This is Bhava Bhakti. This appears to be Prema Bhakti. Because only in the stage of Prema Bhakti, all of one's karmic reactions, everything goes away. All of one's anarthas, everything is destroyed only at the stage of, strictly speaking, only at the stage of darshanam. There are stages beyond, 2 stages beyond Prema Bhakti. After darshana also there is one stage. Harer Madhurya Anubhava. One experiences the sweetness of Lord Hari. After Prema there is darshanam and Harer Madhurya Anubhava. Experience of the sweetness of Lord Hari.
So, Prabhu, in the translation here, in some edition, it's written, sees the self as master. Like the translation of this verse.
No. When one sees oneself and one's master. Huh? You have a different version?
Yes, Prabhu.
What is your version?
The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Self as master.
In that case, that self, they should have put capital S, the supreme self. That they should have put. Right? Okay. All right, let's continue. 1 minute. 22. Ato vai kavayo nityam bhaktim paramayamudha vasudeve bhagavati kurvanti atma prasadanim. Certainly, therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering devotion service to Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with great delight, because such devotion service is enlivening to the self. Tatra cha sad acharam darshayan upasamharati. Now he concludes by pointing out that this process has been followed by saintly authorities in the past. Atma prasadani, that which enlivens the self, enlivening to the self. This refers to purification of the mind, because such devotional service is purifying the mind. Because such devotional service purifies the mind. It is only in a pure mind we can experience enlightenment of the self. They've been rendering devotional service to Vasudeva. This reveals the special features of the object of devotional service. Specifically, it talks about devotional service to Krishna, the original personality of God. The speciality of devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, is specifically mentioned here. Lord Shri Krishna is the Swayam Rupa personality of Godhead. And all other forms of Godhead, beginning from Shri Baladev, Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Narayana, and extending to the Purushavataras, Gunavataras, Leelavatas, Yugavataras, and many other thousands of manifestations of the personality of Godhead, are Lord Shri Krishna's plenary portions and integrated parts. The living entities are separated parts and parcels of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna is the original form of Godhead, and he is the last word in the transcendence. Thus, he is more attractive to the higher transcendentalists who participate in internal pastimes of the Lord, in forms of the personality of Godhead. Other than Shri Krishna and Baladev, there is no facility for intimate personal contact, as in the transcendental pastimes of the Lord at Brajabhumi. The transcendental pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna are not newly accepted as argued by some less intelligent persons. These pastimes are eternal and are manifested in due course once in a day of Brahmaji, as the sun rises on the eastern horizon at the end of every 24 hours. So this is evidence, Jiva Goswami notes, this is evidence that Lord Krishna has been worshipped from time immemorial. From time immemorial, one has engaged in devotional service unto him. The word Nityam, according to Baladev, indicates that one must engage in such devotional service at all points in time. And such devotional service itself is simply the form of bliss. Okay. 23. Sattvam rajastama iti prakritir gunasairiyukta parah purusha ek ihasya dhatte sthityaadaye harivirincha hareti sangya shreyamsi tatra khalu sapratanor rinam siyu. The transcendental personality of Godhead is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance. And just for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these three, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of the quality of goodness. Taddeva upapadayitam Brahma आदीनां त्रयाणाम् एकाग्रते अपि वासुदेवस्य आधिक्यमाह सत्त्वमिति. You know, firmly teaches a particular point Okay, something went off. Okay, so in order to teach this particular point, even though Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are considered to be one in a certain sense, what Shiva is superior. That point is brought out in the series of verses beginning with the current verse. Even though there's only one supreme person who is transcendental, and he is known as Hari, Virinchi, and Hara. Still, only from Lord Vasudeva, who is the presiding deity of Sattva Guna, auspicious results are attained. He is called Sattva Tanu. Is coming towards Sattva. He has accepted the form of goodness, which means, or the form of the quality of goodness, means that he has taken charge of the mode of goodness. It does not mean that his body is in the mode of goodness. Shankaracharya's followers consider Lord Vishnu to be made up of goodness, material goodness. But that is not a fact. That is not the point. That Lord Sri Krishna by his primary parts should be in service, as explained above, is confirmed by this statement. Lord Sri Krishna and his primary parts are Vishnu Tattva, or the Lordship of Godhead. From Sri Krishna, the next manifestation is Baladev. From Baladev is Sankarshan. From Sankarshan is Narayan. From Narayan, there is the second Sankarshan. From this Sankarshan, Vishnu Purusha. The Vishnu, or the deity of the quality of goodness in the material world, is the Purusha avatar known as Vishnu or Brahma. Brahma is the deity of Rajas, passion, and Shiva of ignorance. They are the three departmental heads of the three qualities of this material world. The creation is made possible by Brahma's quality of kindness and endeavor. It is maintained by the goodness of Vishnu. And when it requires to be destroyed, Lord Shiva does it by the Tandavan Nritya. Tandavan Nritya, the dance of destruction. The materialists and the foolish human beings worship Brahma and Shiva respectively. But the pure transcendentalists worship the form of goodness, Vishnu, in its real form. Vishnu is manifested by its millions and billions of integrated forms and separated forms. Integrated forms refer to Vishnu Tattva. Separated forms refer to the Jivas. The integrated forms are called Godhead, and the separated forms are called the living entities or the Jivas. Both the Jivas and Godhead have their original spiritual forms. Jivas are sometimes subjected to the control of the material energy, but the Vishnu forms are always controllers of this energy. When Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, appears in the material world, he comes to deliver the conditioned living beings who are under the material energy. Such living beings appear in the material world with the intentions of being lords, and thus they become entrapped by the three modes of nature. As such, the living entities have to change their material coverings for undergoing different terms of imprisonment. The prison house of the material world is created by Brahma under instruction of the personality of Godhead. At the conclusion of a kalpa, the whole thing is destroyed by Shiva. But as far as maintenance of the prison house is concerned, it is done by Vishnu as much as the state prison house is maintained by the state. Anyone, therefore, who wishes to get out of this prison house of material existence, which is full of miseries, like repetition of birth, death, disease, old age, must please Lord Vishnu for such wish. Mukti pradata sarvesham Vishnureva na samshaya. There is a basic concept that moksha, out of the Purushavatas, out of the Purusharthas, out of the various Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Moksha can only be given by Lord Vishnu. It can be given by Lord Shiva or Brahma when they direct you to surrender to Lord Vishnu. And you accept Brahma and Shiva as Vaishnava gurus. gurus in Vishnu Bhakti. But you need to surrender to Lord Vishnu and beg him for liberation. Only he can give that. Others cannot give it. This principle is taught in Harivamsha. Harivamsha is an appendix to the Mahabharata. There is one Ghantakarna, who was, I think, a Rakshasa or something of that type. And he was a devotee of Lord Shiva. He prayed to Lord Shiva for liberation. And Lord Shiva told him this. Told him that Lord Vishnu alone can bestow liberation. Mukti pradati Mukti pradata sarvesham Vishnu Reva. Only Lord Vishnu can grant liberation. No samshaya. There's no doubt about this. So he told him that at some point you will meet Lord Krishna. At that time you surrender to him, he will give you liberation. So only Lord Vishnu can give liberation. Lord Vishnu is worshipped by devotional service only. And if anyone has to continue present life in the material world, he may ask for relative facilities for temporary relief from different gods like Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Varuna. No demigod, however, can release the imprisoned living being from the conditioned life of material existence. This can be done only by Vishnu. Therefore, the ultimate benefit may be derived from Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. Let me also deal with it. Madhvacharya is given from that strictly speaking, Lord Vishnu present inside it is Lord Vishnu present inside Isha or Lord Shiva who takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Brahmani Brahmarupascha Shivarupi Shivestitaha Pritageva Sthito Devo Vishnurupi Janardana. And Lord Janardana in the form of Lord Vishnu is situated separate from Brahma and Shiva. And he has interpreted the word Sattva Tanau. He reads Sattva Tanau. Sattva Tanau instead of Sattva Tanau. To refer to the living entity. One minute. Wait. तत्रापि तत्र तेषां मध्ये श्रेयांसि धर्मार्थ काम मोक्ष भक्त्याख्यानि शुभ फलानि सत्वतनोरधिष्ठित सत्व शक्तेः श्री विष्णोरेव स्युः. Jiva Goswami points out that even though the Supreme Lord himself has assumed the names of Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, and appears in those forms, still amongst them, piety, dharma, prosperity, wealth, pleasure, kama, liberation, moksha, devotion service unto the Supreme Lord, bhakti, all auspicious results in the form of these ones. All of these only come from Lord Vishnu, the one who has appropriate potency that is found inside these worshipable deities. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur refers to 1.2.25 and indicates that Lord Hari's body is Vishuddha Sattva. It is not material Sattva. He also quotes from Shvetashvatara Upanishad. He also quotes from Vishnu Purana to point out that he is beyond the three modes of material nature. Sattva guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna do not exist in the Supreme Lord. Also found in Bhagavatam 10th canto. Haro Maya Gunasya Sattvasi Yuktatvepi Tasya Ayoga eva. Even though the qualities of Maya, even though the quality of Maya known as Sattva Guna is related to him, he is not actually in touch with it. Because it is impossible for Sattva Guna to reveal a Sachidananda substance. Whereas Rajoguna and Tamoguna, they cannot be of any help in this matter. Brahma's nature is presented in the Brahma Samhita. His powers are simply reflections of Lord Govinda's power. Lord Shiva is not a Jiva, but he is the Ishvara who has come in contact with the gunas. This is noted in Brahma Samhita. The Supreme Lord's connection with Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna only is as the controller of these modes without being under their control. Okay. Okay, question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So, as for the Hare Krishna Prabhu, am I audible? Hare Krishna. Am I audible? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Fully audible.
Oh, सुन पा रहे हैं ना हम प्रभु तो कुछ नहीं बोल
प्रो का लग रहा है इंटरनेट कनेक्शन बहुत ही वीक है आज।
हाँ yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna.
I think I got kicked out. Now I came back. If you asked anything, said anything, screamed anything, you have to let me know.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, bro.
So as we say that the soul they are part and parcel of Krishna. So Atma is part and parcel of Krishna, but never there was a time when soul like it got like expanded from Krishna. It's always there along with Krishna. So similarly for here we say that from Krishna came Balram, from Balram came Sankarsana, like that we say. But is it that they all have been ever existing or sometime they have expanded?
No,
like
they're
that?
all, they know, at no point in time any of this has happened. At all points in time, everything exists. But since we are in material existence where we experience time as past, present, and future. So when there is a description of something beyond material existence, then the language that is suitable to our experience is used. For example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when there's a discussion about why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, then you'll come across statements such as when Lord Krishna desired to experience the attitude of Srimati Radharani, then he becomes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When exactly did that happen? It eternally happens. But we cannot deal with statements of eternity because we are living in a world of non-eternity. Our experience is asat, achit, nirananda. So therefore, a particular language is utilized. When this happens, then that happens. So that applies in general. It applies in general everywhere. Same way, the spiritual world is not a localized abode. It's like if I need to go from Calcutta to Bombay, I have to leave one place and go to another place. On the other hand, that is not how it is with the spiritual world. It is entirely made up of Vishuddha Sattva, consciousness itself. So these are things which we understand. Abhinav Prabhu, are you in
Yes,
Sri Vrindavan Dham?
yes, Prabhu. I am in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thank you. In connection to the last question of Mohan Radhaprati Prabhu, I want to ask that sometimes in Bhagavad Gita and in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada states that there are eternally liberated living beings and eternally conditioned. And I read recently Mahaprabhu Shikha, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur states there are two types of living entities, eternally liberated and eternally conditioned. So, am I right that this is because in the material world there is no time? So when Jiva gets liberated,
in the spiritual world, there is no time.
Yeah. So when Jiva becomes liberated, so he becomes eternally liberated, right?
Yeah.
And then if he comes to material world, then eternally conditioned because of the time, right?
Yes, this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's own compact classification of the living entities. Nitya Muktas, Nitya Samsar, or Nitya Baddhas. Straight from Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. 24. Parthivad daruno dhumas tasmad agnistrayimaya tamasastu rajastasmad sattvam yad brahma darshanam. Fire is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood. And fire is still better, for by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas, but goodness, sattva, is best, because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. So now he points out that because of a distinction in the upadhis, there is a distinction in the result. He explains this with an example. Upadhi. Upadhi is a complex subject matter that appears in Vedanta philosophy. Upadhi, Prabhupada generally renders as material designation. And the standard textbook example for Upadhi is you have a transparent crystal. Next to the crystal, you place a red flower. Then the transparent crystal now appears to be red. There are crystals we know of different colors. There are red crystals also, crystals that are intrinsically red. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking of a transparent crystal. The red crystal is just placed next to it. And now this crystal appears to be red. The redness of the transparent crystal is referred to as an upadhi. This is the material designation. This is the designation. This is what is meant by designation. So the living entity definitely has those kinds of upadhis. The Supreme Lord, when he appears through Brahma, when he functions through Brahma, when he functions through Shiva, he also, without touching material existence, uses them as upadhis. They are not his upadhis, the way the Jivatmas have upadhis. Because the Jivatma is arrested by Maya. But Lord Vishnu is never arrested by Maya. Lord Vishnu does not touch Maya, but he uses them as his upadhis. So here the example is given of firewood being a transformation of earth. Firewood meaning raw firewood. But smoke is better than that. And fire is better than smoke. This will be explained in the purport itself. It is pointed out that Rajoguna is superior to Tamoguna, because in Rajoguna, one can engage in karma, one can attain pious credits, because one can engage in fire sacrifices, Vedic fire sacrifices. Primarily in Rajoguna, one engages in these Vedic rituals. But superior to that is Sattva-guna, where one directly perceives the supreme absolute truth. In Rajoguna, one slightly perceives the absolute truth. But in Sattva-guna, one directly has the ability to perceive the absolute truth. So the idea is, just as Sattva-guna is better than Rajoguna, better than Tamoguna, similarly, worship of Lord Vishnu is superior to worship of Lord Brahma, which is superior to worship of Lord Shiva. And Vishnu is superior to Brahma, is superior to Shiva in their functioning. It's 9 o'clock. I'll stop now. This actually requires some explanation, so I'll stop now. We'll deal with this in the next session. Vaishnav